That day, my ex-husband showed up at my parents' house for the first time in 10 years. My wife and I are moving in here. Leave without causing us any trouble. What? Ignoring me, who was at a loss for words, my ex-husband continued. My wife, Amanda, got pregnant. Yes, my ex-husband had cheated on me with a young female colleague and left me 10 years ago. All we want is to provide a good educational environment for our child to be born. We can make much better use of this house than you who are single all your life. I sighed and shook my head as my ex-husband appeared for the first time in 10 years and spoke to me in an outrageous and a brazen manner. What are you talking about? You just can't. What? Are you listening to me? Don't you know who lives in this house now? As soon as my ex-husband saw a figure appear from behind me, he turned pale and started shaking. Who the hell is this? At this moment, my ex-husband, who had brazenly come back, realized his actions had backfired. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 45-year-old, a restaurant employee. The company seems to appreciate me fairly well, and among my peers, I'm progressing fairly smoothly in my career. Although I'm living a peaceful life now, it took me several years and many twists and turns to get here, experiencing numerous events along the way. Among them, the most significant event was probably my divorce from my then-husband, Michael. The cause was Michael's infidelity. He shockingly eloped with Amanda, my younger colleague. Amanda appeared as a charming colleague when behaving normally, but she had a tendency to covet what belonged to others around her. Moreover, her behavior was beyond normal envy. If she deemed something she didn't possess as valuable, she would want it. Whether it was an object or even a person, showing a complete lack of common sense. On the other hand, Michael had a friendly personality and demeanor and was easy to get along with. And I was attracted to these qualities in him at that time. Michael took a liking to me as well, which led to us dating. After a while, I introduced him to my family. By that time, we were already in a relationship with the intention of marrying. So this was a decision we made after discussing and settling on what needed to be finalized between us. My parents and sister took a liking to Michael, and he was also amiable towards them, which allowed the engagement meeting to go smoothly. However, it was after this that Amanda, my younger colleague, started targeting him. Passing by us talking in the break room, Amanda seemed quite surprised when she saw him. Apparently, I later found out that Amanda and Michael had known each other from high school and college. After that, Amanda started to intrude between me and Michael, often joining us not just at work but also in our private outings, making it a trio. While I sensed something off, Michael and Amanda's interactions continued even after our marriage. And the more they kept in touch, the more I started to feel uneasy. They would get excited over topics only they knew, and start sneaking off together. Michael, did you go out with Amanda yesterday? I wanted to be included too. Oh, my bad. I'll make sure to invite you next time. Michael's response, seemingly absent-minded, gave me an uneasy feeling. Later, when invited to dinner by another colleague, I was informed of a shocking truth during the meal. Shockingly, this colleague said that she saw Michael entering a hotel in the city arm in arm with a woman who wasn't me. Moreover, when my colleague showed me a photo taken on impulse, it turned out that the woman in the photo was indeed Amanda. I didn't want to believe it, but being shown the photo left me with no choice but to accept the truth. I had my colleague transfer any other photos taken and decided to confront Michael that day. Michael, what is this about? You and Amanda are in these photos, aren't you? Oh no. Well, this is, you know. With his indecisive attitude, Michael kept mumbling without giving a clear response. I turned a blind eye at first, thinking it was just an interaction between colleagues at work, but I never imagined it would escalate to betrayal. No, that's because you two were making a fool of me, weren't you? Did you have a good time on dating with Amanda, forgetting about your wife? As I pressed him further, Michael hung his head in silence, and eventually stopped responding altogether. It was the next day when Michael disappeared as if fleeing from the situation. The next morning, when I woke up to find Michael nowhere, I called Amanda with a sense of suspicion, but couldn't reach her either. It was 3 days later that I discovered Michael and Amanda were together. Because papers signed by Michael to file for divorce were sent home, and Amanda also emailed me. There was only this one line written in her email. Jennifer, I'm sorry, me and Michael will find happiness together. Of course, I couldn't accept it with just this brief email. But I couldn't even lodge a protest because I had no idea where they had gone, and I couldn't reach them. Furthermore, Michael had sent his resignation notice to the company by mail, eliminating any connections there as well. Feeling utterly helpless, I ultimately decided to agree to the divorce. For a while after that, I was plunged into despair and couldn't find my way back. I simply couldn't accept the reality that Michael had eloped with Amanda. But I couldn't stay down forever. I decided to channel my frustration and anger into immersing myself in my work. Focusing on work allowed me to forget about Michael and Amanda. This dedication paid off, and the company recognized my contributions by promoting me and giving me a new position. With the help of good people around me, I was able to lead a stable life within 2 to 3 years after Amanda and Michael eloped. And now, one day, 10 years after Amanda and Michael eloped and disappeared from my life. Since it was my day off, I slept in and finally woke up close to noon. Just as I was getting up from bed to start making some food, the cell phone by my pillow suddenly rang. It was an incoming call. The screen showed no caller ID. I usually wouldn't respond, but being half asleep, I ended up answering it. Hello? No sooner had I tentatively spoken up than an unexpected voice came through from the other end of the line. Hey, Jennifer. Long time no see. It's me, Michael. What's up? So lucky this number is still yours. What? Michael. To my astonishment, it was from Michael, my ex-husband. I was so surprised that I nearly fell out of bed. Michael. Why on earth would you contact me now after 10 years? What are you thinking? What do you mean, why? Even after 10 or 20 years, isn't it normal for us to keep in touch since we were once married? Michael said it while laughing, as if something was funny. His attitude of laughing it off as if nothing had happened reminded me of the anger that should have been forgotten. What do you mean once married? Stop fooling around, all right? How dare you contact me so brazenly? Let me ask again. Why are you contacting me now? Come on, Jennifer, calm down. It hasn't changed a bit that you were easily irritated. Michael's carefree tone made me feel like a fool, which irritated me even more. Although I didn't utter a word, perhaps sensing my mood over the phone, Michael finally got to the point. Oh, anyway, you're living at your parents' house now, right? Can you pack your things and leave as soon as possible? What? Sorry for the sudden news to you, but me and Amanda have decided to move into that house. It is absolutely nonsense. What kind of thought process led him to such a conclusion? Actually, Amanda and I got married and she recently got pregnant. We want to provide a good educational environment for our child to be born. So, are you telling me to leave? Of course, you won't refuse, right? I'm actually being kind by telling you this. If you stay in your parents' house forever, you won't be able to remarry. My head began to ache with anger and disbelief. I never expected that after 10 years of no contact, he would reach out only to make such an absurd demand. Indeed, as Michael said, I had returned to my parents' house. I don't know how he found out about it, but it is certainly true. Of course, I'm going to say no to that. What? Why should I have to hand over my family home for you too? Are you stupid? You must be, right? When I retorted sharply, Michael, seemingly upset, snapped back in a harsh tone. Oh, my bad. Besides, there's no way you, being infertile at 45, could even remarry. During my marriage to Michael, I never got pregnant. He's probably referring to that when he mentions infertility, but it's such an unpleasant way to put it. This is just ridiculous. Is that all you wanted to say? I'm not handing over this house, and even if you come here, I won't let you in. I hung up unilaterally. I didn't want to talk with Michael anymore. Still, this was just too selfish. Cheating and eloping, and now he wants this house? I hoped this would be the end of it, but what was to come, I wondered. Just as I was thinking like that, a few days later, another incident occurred. It was a busy morning at work, and I couldn't take my lunch break until after 1 p.m. After finishing my lunch at my favorite coffee shop near my workplace, I entered the building's entrance and spotted a familiar man. What? You've got to be kidding me. Why are you here? To my surprise, it was Michael. He had gained considerable weight compared to 10 years ago, but it was unmistakably Michael. I tried to hide immediately, but it was too late, he had already spotted me. As soon as Michael spotted me, he hurriedly ran over. Well, there you are. I've been waiting forever. About our conversation the other day, when are you planning to leave? I'd prefer if you could make it by next month. I have no idea what you're talking about. I already said no, didn't I? And showing up at my workplace like this is unbelievable. Go away. You're bothering me. Hey, you still saying that? It only makes sense that instead of you who are single all your life, living in that house, it would be better for us. A married couple with a child on the way, to live there with your parents. You think so, too, right? Enough is enough. No matter how much you ask, my answer is no. You were the one who cheated and eloped on your own accord. Don't drag me into cleaning up your mess. As I spoke firmly, Michael finally frowned and raised his voice. What did you say? First of all, I cheated because you were infertile. If you could have had children, I wouldn't have cheated. It's all your fault. So the least you can do is provide me a place to live. Are you serious? This is too absurd for words. I have to go back to work. If you keep lingering here, I'll call security. Michael seemed to want to talk more. But after my final warning about calling security and noticing the stares from around us, he left the entrance and walked out, muttering a parting shot. I thought this would finally make Michael give up, but I was painfully reminded that it wasn't so simple. A week after he showed up at my workplace. That day, after finishing work, I was leisurely enjoying a game app on my cell phone at home. Then, suddenly, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I decided to check the doorbell monitor anyway. I was at a loss for words and my mind went blank at the sight of the person there. Hey, Jennifer. Are your things packed yet? Since you didn't contact me, I came here for you. It was Michael and Amanda standing there. Enough is enough. I hurried to the entrance and flung the door open. Hi Jennifer, long time no see. As you might have heard from Michael, I'm expecting a child. Once our baby is born, we'll let you dote on our baby. You know. Michael was glaring at me, while Amanda wore an unsettling smile. In response to them, I let out a deliberately exaggerated sigh that anyone could notice. Are you tired or something? I don't care though. Anyway, I have very important things to tell you. We are happy about our baby but out of money. So please let us live in this house, okay? Amanda said, looking up at me with pleading eyes. Then Michael chimed in. And I just remembered this house isn't yours, but your parents', right? Are your parents home now? And if they are? Let us talk to them directly. Our baby is going to be their first grandchild, so they're bound to welcome us with open arms, for sure. I couldn't help but laugh at Michael's delusional words. He truly didn't know anything. Hey, what's so funny? That's really rude. Hurry up and get our father-in-law and mother-in-law out here. Huh? Didn't you guys really know who lives in this house now? If you're looking for the people you call mom and dad, they're no longer here. What? Yes, my parents no longer live in this house. Sometime after I returned to my parents' house following my divorce from Michael. My parents gave me this house as a living gift and retired to the countryside on my mother's side. So, I am the owner of this house. When I confronted them with that fact, both Michael and Amanda's eyes widened in shock. Understand? This house is mine, which means I have all the decision-making power. No more counting your chickens before they hatch. I made my stance clear, but Michael persisted even further. Then, you can stay in this house, just let us live here with you. Come on. Let's get along like we used to. A trio, the three of us. That would be perfect, right? Oh, sounds like a great idea. Jennifer, it must be lonely living in such a big house all by yourself, right? If we live together, everyone can be happy, wouldn't that be great? Still unable to break free from their wishful thinking, both of them started spouting absurdities. As I was about to retort, a voice came from behind me. Jennifer, what's going on? It's been noisy for a while now. Is something wrong? Upon seeing the person who appeared behind me, Michael and Amanda suddenly went silent and turned pale. Wait, what? Who is this guy? Jason. Sorry for the noise. But you've come at just the right time. These are my ex-husband and his wife that I was talking about. The man who spoke to me was Jason, my current husband. And in his arms was our little son. While staring at Michael and Amanda, Jason hummed thoughtfully and then greeted both of them, who were visibly confused. Good evening. You're Michael and Amanda, right? I'm Jason, Jennifer's husband, and this is our son. So adorable, huh? Michael and Amanda were left gaping. They must have been truly surprised. Indeed, I had remarried. About a year after divorcing from Michael, I met Jason through my friend from work. Things progressed smoothly with Jason, and we got married less than 6 months after we started dating. Then I got pregnant with our son, and now I'm balancing work with household chores and childcare. Jason is also balancing work with household chores and childcare, so I've been able to advance in my career without neglecting my work. I hope you understand now that there's absolutely no room for you two to interfere. We are happily living together as a family of 3. Oh gosh, Jennifer, you were not infertile at all? Just can't believe that. Michael slumped to the ground, holding his head in despair. What? Jennifer getting married to such a handsome man? That's so unfair. Amanda was stomping the ground in frustration. Then Jason looked down at them coldly and said, Whatever you think, that's how it is, so please leave now. If you ever come near my precious family again, I won't hesitate to call the police, understood? Perhaps intimidated by Jason's presence and the mention of the police, Michael and Amanda fled with pitiful cries and their faces turned pale. 2 days later, Michael called me again without learning the lesson. I wanted to put an end to it, so I considered just hanging up and blocking his number. However, having been harassed to the point of him showing up at my workplace, I decided to pick up the phone. Thinking I might as well hear his excuses one last time. Do you need anything else? Jason told you not to come near, right? Please don't say that. We're out of money and have nowhere to go. And we can't even rely on our parents' home anymore. Michael explained that after eloping and quitting their jobs, they had been living day-to-day on temporary jobs and part-time work. But after finding out Amanda's pregnancy, Michael had to cover all living expenses by himself, which led to both financial and physical hardship. Amidst all this, they remembered me and thought if I was still living in the house, they could somehow coax me into leaving. But their plan fell through when they failed to anticipate the presence of Jason and our son. Michael and Amanda then attempted to reconcile with Michael's parents, but having been disowned over the elopement incident 10 years ago, they were quickly turned away. It's quite a normal reaction. Come on, please, I'm sorry for what happened 10 years ago, and I'll do anything to make it up. So, you know what, it's too late. Goodbye. Having satisfied myself by listening to his pleas, I hung up and blocked his number and email. That was the last time Michael and Amanda appeared in my life. Later, through a mutual friend, I heard that Michael had shamelessly cheated again. The reason was that Amanda's pregnancy was a complete lie. It seems that the lie Amanda concocted was a desperate attempt to find a pretext to drive me out of my parents' home. Michael appeared to truly believe that Amanda's pregnancy was real, indicating that he, too, was deceived by the lie. Having eloped with Amanda in the hope of having children, he found her unnecessary once he found out she wasn't pregnant. The friend also said that Michael repeated infidelity out of a desire to have children, and eventually had a massive argument with Amanda and broke up with her. Later, I received a letter from Michael filled with confessions that he had been diagnosed with male infertility upon visiting a clinic and that he regretted eloping 10 years ago. Of course, I ignored it, and Jason tore the letter to pieces and threw it into the trash with great vigor. Whether Michael gave up on reconciling because he received no response from me, or he never expected it in the first place, I never received another letter from him again. Having been disrupted by my selfish ex-husband after 10 years but managing to put him in his place, I resolved to forget about it and move on with my life. Since then, I am living peacefully with Jason, who is kind and compassionate, and our adorably precious son. My name is Christina, a 34-year-old housemaker. I live with Robert, who's the same age as me, and our second-grade daughter, Emma. After my father-in-law passed away from an illness several years ago, my mother-in-law Samantha is living alone. We moved to a place near her home 3 years ago, as Robert was worried about her. At that time, I only thought of the convenience in terms of proximity to our parents. However, I currently have 2 major concerns. First is Robert's recurring infidelity. Robert can't say no when approached, and he's quite prone to getting distracted by other women. This was an issue even when we were dating, but at the time of his proposal, he swore to only have eyes for me from then on. Perhaps it was my fault for choosing him, but I did believe in him at that time. Yet, nothing changed after we got married. Most of it wasn't direct, like messaging, but there was a time when we nearly faced a divorce because of a serious confrontation. At that time, Robert seemed genuinely remorseful, and I still loved him and considering our then young daughter Emma's well-being. I chose to stay and rebuild our relationship. But every time I see Robert glued to his smartphone, I can't help but suspect he's still in touch with someone else. The second issue is Samantha, who lives nearby. Ever since we moved here, she had a habit of dropping by unannounced and often leaves after making snide remarks. At first, I tried to be understanding, thinking she was just lonely, but her behavior has escalated over time. It was too late by the time I realized how unreasonable she could be. She wreaks havoc as she pleases, ruining ingredients I've prepared or even complaining about the contents of my neatly tied garbage bags. When I bring up these complaints, Robert just laughs them off, making it impossible to have a serious conversation. Moreover, Samantha always interjects in our fights. It seems Robert runs to her after every argument to rally her on his side. During a heated argument in the past caused by Robert's infidelity, Samantha took his side, saying, "Well, of course he wouldn't want to come back to a wife who's always angry like you." I was dumbfounded. Whenever she attacks me, she never fails to say, "If only you could have had a boy," an utterly outdated comment. No, that's totally irrelevant right now, isn't it? Each time, I can't help but make this retort in my mind. Originally, the family of in-laws is just an ordinary household, not one of those grand lineages that would necessitate an heir. Dealing with a philandering, mama's boy husband and a son-obsessed, daughter-in-law tormenting Emil is a daily struggle for me. In the midst of these troubles, Emma's smile remains my only ray of hope. I've considered divorce numerous times, but as a housemaker without a job, I have financial concerns. Thinking about Emma's future growth, I don't want her to experience any hardships. Most importantly, I couldn't bear the thought of taking her beloved father away from her. Which is why I couldn't bring myself to initiate a divorce. Today, she showed me a portrait I supposedly drew in class. In the picture, I was holding hands and laughing with her. It seems that at some point, she's become quite skilled at drawing. Feeling Emma's growth, I smiled. I can keep going because she is here. When I said, "Thank you," and patted her head, Emma smiled shyly, clearly delighted. One day, just like any other day after sending Robert and my daughter, Emma, off to work and school respectively. I was doing house chores when I received a call from Samantha. She said she needed me to come to her house immediately. "Wouldn't it be nice if you could come over as usual?" By this time, I had developed some resistance to Samantha's unreasonable demands and could talk back a bit. "Well, calling an old woman like me over. What a cold-hearted daughter-in-law you are," she exclaimed, predictably making a big fuss. Although I expected it, she raised her voice dramatically. I sighed. Looking outside the window, the sky was overcast, looking like it might rain at any moment. All right. I'll head over in a bit," I said nonchalantly before hanging up the phone. I had no idea what the matter was. But I could easily guess it was the usual chores like changing a light bulb or cleaning the shower room instead of her. I stopped folding the laundry, changed into something more comfortable, and headed to her place. Upon late. However, she seemed to be in a surprisingly good mood subtly. "Huh? Samantha, don't you have a guest over?" I tilted my head as I noticed the leather shoes and pumps lined up at the entrance. "Yes, there's someone I wanted you to meet." Increasingly puzzled, I followed Samantha into the living room, where I found Robert, who was supposed to have gone to work. And an unfamiliar woman. Moreover, the woman's belly was noticeably swollen. "Well, sit down." Urged by Samantha, I took a seat. "Weren't you supposed to be at work?" Without directly addressing the woman, I questioned, and Robert, looking sheepish, scratched his cheek. I took a day off. There was something I needed to tell you today, and I asked Mom for help. Is it about that woman? As I glanced over, the woman chewing orange contentedly. In contrast, Robert turned pale, trembled, and deeply apologized. I got her pregnant. The baby is due in 3 months. She wants to keep it. So, I want a divorce. I had a rough idea just by looking at the woman's belly. I couldn't bring myself to tell you. As time went by, her belly just kept growing. Hearing him pathetically apologize and request a divorce, I let out a heavy sigh. What's the point of that apology? It's an apology meant to serve his own needs. Knowing that, I couldn't hold back my overwhelming sadness. Didn't you think about Emma? What were you thinking when you interacted with Emma while having an affair? These were the words I had said to Robert during a previous affair. I told you, if you ever feel tempted again, think of Emma, not me. Robert adored Emma. Despite my tearful pleas that cheating hurts not just me but our beloved daughter, it seems to haven't changed anything. It wasn't a moment of madness, it was serious. A calm voice interrupted the conversation between me and Robert. The other woman, looking at us with a serene smile, said, Robert always said I was his number one, even more than his wife and daughter. That's why, as a proof of our love, I was able to conceive a boy. Just as Samantha wanted. She smiled. And then, while saying, that's right, isn't it, she rubbed her belly. Her brazenness was so shocking that I went beyond anger to disbelief. How could she say such a thing in this situation? Then Samantha spoke up. Well, unlike you, Olivia is young, gentle, and kind-hearted. I'm all for your divorce. It seems the affair partner's name is Olivia. A kind-hearted woman wouldn't get pregnant by a married man. My murmured comment seemed to offend Samantha, who glared at me sharply. Enough from you. You're no longer needed. A wife who can only bear daughters should just get a divorce and leave. With a shooing motion, Samantha yelled at me. Robert wouldn't meet my eyes, and Olivia wore a triumphant smile, caressing her belly. I understand we're getting a divorce. I'll take care of Emma. Feeling pushed out, I rushed out of Samantha's house. As expected, it had started to rain outside. I had brought an umbrella, but I left it at the entrance of the Samantha's house. It was my favorite one. But that no longer mattered. With a dry laugh, I trudged through the rain towards home. The divorce proceeded unemotionally, and before I knew it, 3 months had passed. Robert was reluctant to be separated from Emma. But he seemed to understand the gravity of his actions and eventually agreed to my demands for child support. He managed to arrange it by selling our apartment. Although I was mentally and physically exhausted, the process was quicker than expected, thanks to the lawyer my father introduced me to. My main concern was for Emma's well-being, but she has continued to smile and interact with me even after the divorce. She must be putting on a brave face for my sake. For now, we're staying at my parents' house, and she's continuing to attend the same elementary school. But we may have to consider moving depending on where we find a new home and my job situation. She seems to understand that, but I know she feels differently deep down. There's nothing sadder than seeing a child suffer because of their parents' selfishness. To ensure Emma wouldn't feel lonely, I spent my days searching for a new home and job within her school district. It was during this time that I received a call from Robert. We had kept in touch due to matters related to child support. Thinking I would hang up depending on what he wanted, I answered the call. Right off the bat, he was in a panic, saying something about the skin color of the baby is. Taken aback by this sudden topic, I responded, we agreed you wouldn't contact me unless it was about child support or something necessary. Trying to remain calm, I countered his statement. It's not about that. I've been deceived. Though I could have hung up, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to listen. The baby isn't mine. To summarize, Olivia had safely given birth recently, but the baby had features clearly not from Robert or Olivia's families, leading Robert to insist on a DNA test. It turned out the baby was indeed a boy, as they had said. Having heard that Robert had married Olivia right after our divorce, I struggled to suppress a laugh. Olivia was seeing several men, including a foreigner, besides me. Can you believe it? He was expressing his anger as though he was the victim. He continued, "This is cuckoldry. When I said I'd sue, she told me she chose me because I seemed the wealthiest. It's just too much." Neither Robert, Samantha nor Olivia herself could have anticipated this turn of events. All I could feel was schadenfreude. "Really, you're saying that?" At my words, he seemed surprised and said, "What?" I received a wry smile from me. Did he expect me to console him? Cheaters deserve each other. It doesn't matter if the skin color is different. It's the boy your dear mother wanted, after all. My words clearly unsettled him. But, you see, I'm planning to leave Olivia. I was hoping we could get back together." His stammering plea for reconciliation made me want to pull my hair out. Mom said it was the best thing to do. His unnecessary addition infuriated me even more. "Please, enjoy your life with your like-minded new wife, your precious mother, and the cute baby that belongs to someone else." I spat out these words and hung up. I immediately turned off my phone too. This call confirmed the birth of the baby. However, the words about reconciliation from Robert made me uneasy. I had been searching for a home and job in this area to prevent Emma from having to change schools. But now I wondered if it might be better to move somewhere far from Robert and his family. That evening, I was having dinner with Emma and Mother. My father hadn't returned from work yet. Emma was excited to watch TV with Grandpa when he got home, and my mother suggested joining in. Seeing her granddaughter smiling, my mother also looked delighted and said, "Maybe I should join in the fun too." Our peaceful family moment was abruptly interrupted by the sudden ring of the doorbell. Wondering who it could be at this hour, I peered at the screen to find, to my surprise, Robert and Samantha. "Stay here with Grandma for a bit, Emma." I left Emma with my mother and opened the door with the chain still on. At that moment, the door was forcefully pulled, causing a sharp noise to echo. Thankfully, I had kept the chain on. As I was truly glad about the chain, I heard a TSK and saw Samantha peering through. Behind her, Robert stood with a downcast look. "Rob wanted to take you back as his wife, and you refused, huh?" Rob means Robert. It seems Samantha has been calling him that since he was a child. "You don't realize how kind Rob is, thinking you, with a child, would have no chance of remarrying? It's none of your business. You have your long-awaited grandson and Olivia. Please get along with them." My words made Samantha flush with anger. "If I had known she was like that, I would have put up with you." Pushing aside Samantha, my ex-husband then reached his hand through the gap in the front door. "Christina, I truly regret everything. I was deceived too. Let's build a happy family together, just the three of us this time." Robert pleaded tearfully at the door while rattling it, with Samantha shouting emotionally beside him. As I puzzled over what to do in this bizarre situation, an unexpected voice silenced them both. "I hate Daddy and Grandma because you always bully Mommy." Turning around, I saw Emma standing there, tears welling up in her eyes. My mother rushed over from behind her, holding her back from getting too close to the door. My mother was holding her mobile phone. "Dad and the lawyer are on their way here now." It seems that my father was in contact with the lawyer who helped us out. During that time, Emma must have seized the opportunity to come to me. My mother's words brought me a bit of relief. To be honest, I was internally terrified by the ferocity of the two, who looked like they could break the chain and barge in at any moment. "Emma, let's wait with Grandma over there." At my mother's words, she shook her head in refusal, saying, "Emma will protect Mommy. I hate Daddy and Grandma." She was crying her eyes out. I couldn't help but tear up at this sight and held Emma close. Samantha and Robert were just staring at us in shock. Their earlier momentum had vanished, and their faces had lost all vitality. I think Emma's words had an impact. While this was happening, my father and the lawyer arrived, and even a police car showed up. It seems a neighbor must have called them. "Robert, you will never be with my daughter again. If you regret your actions, this is not the way to go about it. Understand?" Following my father, I stood in front of Robert and Samantha. "Please don't hurt Emma anymore. I will never meet your demands. I want nothing to do with you ever again," I said. At my and my father's words, Robert and Samantha grimaced, nodded, and quietly got into the police car. The lawyer said, "We will take even stricter measures to ensure this never happens again," offering reassuring words. I thanked the lawyer, who I would be relying on a lot from now on. I heard later that Robert eventually divorced Olivia and sued her. Olivia sought help from the foreign man who was the father of her baby. Though he took the baby, it turned out he was a married man, and his wife turned her away. I sincerely wish for the baby's happiness. Robert and Samantha have become the talk of the neighborhood and are living miserably together. Robert is working like a horse, doing overtime to pay the child support, and he's been good about making the payments. As for us, we've moved to a place with no ties to Robert and his family. I managed to get my job back through connections from my single days, and Emma is making friends and enjoying her new school. I'm looking forward to her growth and am determined to live a strong life.